Howdy, hello, Dr. G again. In this lecture, we're going to talk about the Native American population in the Northeast and their cuisine. So just as a reminder, we are talking about this group of people right here that is labeled Eastern Woodlands, but in the book they call them the Northeast Native Americans. And the geography of the Northeast, so just look again what you see here, that you see that there's a lot of coastline, both ocean coastline, and there's lakes and rivers. There's freshwater lakes there, and we see a lot of wooded area. So there are some common dishes that I want you to know related to the Northeast Native American populations. First of all, as with many people groups, we saw the three sisters, right? Bean, corns, and squash are cultivated by the Northeast Native American populations. And that leads us to a lot of different foods and things like that. So the common dishes maybe is not such a great title for this. But just know that those three sisters are part of the Northeast tradition. You'll see it elsewhere. A clam bake, we will talk about in a little bit, is something that's a common cooking method. Then as far as I have here, I guess I didn't label it, but we have baked beans with maple syrup. So baked beans go with maple syrup in the Northeast. In general, when you think about maple syrup, you're going to think of the North because that's where maple trees grow. But we have maple syrup found with corns, bean, and fish, and that makes up succotash. Unfortunately, I can't show you a lot of pictures of these foods because these were foods from the past that aren't necessarily consumed in the same way now. So if you were to Google succotash now, you're definitely not going to find it with fish, and probably not made with maple syrup either. We see clam chowder was something that was common, and in the regional cuisines, we'll talk about different types of clam chowder, because there's three main types of clam chowder that all of those kind of came from the idea of the Northeast cooking of the Native Americans. We see codfish balls. So codfish balls are basically just little balls of fish rolled up and fried. And then there was brown bread that was commonly consumed. So this is the clam bake that I was telling you about. And actually here it's you see corn and lobster tails. But clam bake basically just means that you're steaming. This is not a traditional Native American person, clearly, but the way that this came from, that you put clams or any kind of seafood and corn on top of hot coals and you steam the food. So that's what a clam bake is. It's traditionally an outdoor preparation method. So there's some more indigenous things, indigenous foods from the Northeast that were often consumed. So fresh green leafy vegetables that you could find, or greens, not vegetables necessarily, the greens that you could find that maybe you could gather them, that they were grown just wild. Fish, I talked about both having the ocean right there as well as freshwater lakes and rivers. We've already talked about lobsters and other types of clams and things like that, so lots of seafood. Other things that, because of the woods, you would see deer and rabbit. Turkey was common, right? We think of the first Thanksgiving that there was turkey in there. There really wasn't, but turkey is now consumed, and it was consumed then if it was consumed, and not all Native Americans ate them, because some Native Americans thought you are what you eat, and they saw turkeys as being really stupid, because honestly turkeys are pretty stupid, that they can sometimes stare up in the sky when it rains with their mouths open and make themselves drown, but that's a whole nother story. But turkeys were stuffed with native fruits, including crab apples, which are just wild apples, and cranberries. We see ears of corn corn consumed in lots of different ways, through whole roasted ears like what we saw with the clam bake, or in soups, or making cornmeal out of them. You can steam pieces of corn or cornmeal into puddings. You can see popcorn, lots of different things to do with corn. And also, because we saw the Three Sisters, you also saw beans, that bean soup was quite common. So sweets were prevalent in the Northeast, but remember what the sweetener was. Because it's in the North, we're going to say it's maple syrup. So cherries, those are cold weather fruits, so cherries, cranberries, apples, squashes like pumpkin, those are all, they grow well in the north in the cold weather climate. So we could see stewed cherries or cranberry puddings. And then crabapple sauce, not to be confused with cranberry sauce, but it's just these are pictures of crab apples I wanted to show you. They're wild grown apples, so they look a little bit different. They're often smaller in size. This is not the crab apple that I grew up with in Texas, which were these weird looking things that were big and green and knobby looking that came on trees, but that's not the same thing. And then hazelnuts are also grown in the north area. We're not going to focus on hazelnuts so much in the Northeast as we will in the Northwest, and clearly pumpkin pie. So that's what I want you to know about the native cuisines, Native American cuisines of the Northeast. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to help.